So do you ever feel just totally overwhelmed with this whole preparedness thing? It's like there's so much going on. They're like freaking bombing each other, all the countries in the world. The dollar is worth nothing anymore. The leadership that we have, not just in the United States, but every freaking country is just crap. You get on and try to look something up about it, and you have to have 400,000 rounds of ammo and buy this new survival knife and put a whole bunch of stuff up on a shelf. Just stop for a second. Stop. Let me sit down. What I want to talk about today is the mistakes that people new get into this. And not just the new people, but people that have been doing this for 20 years, you know? And here's the thing. I'm absolutely qualified to speak on the subject of prepper mistakes because I screw up freaking everything. So let's have a discussion about that. Go ahead and boop the like button and subscribe, and we'll get into it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's start with the mistake number one. And I'll put this in the beginning of the video before y'all click off because it's probably the most important, or one of the most important. I guess they're all important. But your bug out plan, it's probably not near as good as you think. We actually had to bug out of not too long ago. I'll put a video up above or down below somewhere. You can figure it out. And none of it went like it was supposed to. I'm not gonna get into it. It's all discussed in that video. But you need to go over your bug out plan and bags and all that other bug out stuff because it's not as good as what you expected. One thing to keep in mind with that is a bug out bag is really just like a 3-day overnight bag. If you want to go stomping around in the middle of the mountainous woods and do all that when you bug out, go for it. I'm not gonna stop you. However, you're probably gonna load all that stuff in the truck and drive your way there. So just keep that in mind. Do we need to prepare for if we have to kind of go stomping through the woods, Rambo style? Of course, but just accept the fact that that's probably not how it's going to happen. You're probably more likely to even something as weird as catch a Uber to bug out than go stomping through the woods. Another thing is make sure everyone that is involved knows the bug out plan and procedure. We meaning me and my wife, have done a really good job of communicating that between each other and between our 2 kids. They all knew what to do. Everybody knew what to do. We did not do such a good job of communicating that with the other people that we have in our lives. If you'll watch that video I talked about, you'll see why my wife and I weren't here. We had to call her parents. They had not had such clear communication on these plans as we did. So things were a little hectic. Now, obviously, I'm here talking to a sideways smartphone, so everything worked out fine. We were able to fix everything that went wrong with it, but it's something to consider. Another thing is your primary location, your primary bug out location that is, just go ahead and plan for it not to be available. That is what happened with our experience. And finally, family pictures and documentation and the little things like that. Gather some of that stuff up because if you don't know if you're gonna have a home to come back to, it'd be really cool to have some of that stuff. Granddad's old pocket knife, the doily that Grandma made, one of those little artwork finger paint things that your son made in 1st grade. Sometimes that stuff's kind of cool, and you might want to be able to take it with you if perhaps maybe you're not coming back home. Let's move on. Mistake number 2, forgetting the actual reason why you are preparing. What is the prime directive of why we're even doing all this? And to sum all of this prepping and survival and all this stuff up in a nice, cute little box, prepping is nothing more than making sure that when everybody else's normal stops, you can continue with your normal. That's it, nothing else. Simple enough. So with that being said, we have to establish what you want your normal to be. and this is simple. If you're broke all the time, that's your normal. You don't, that sucks. Who wants that to be the normal? So start hustling, make some money, and stop being broke. Pay off some stuff, right? Get some extra cash flow going. If you're unhealthy, what can you do to fix that? I'm not telling you that you have to go and fix 100% of your health problems, but there's something that you can do, right? Are you pissed off about the toxic food that you buy from the store? Well, so start growing your own food. That's preparedness. Establishing this normal is preparedness. What did I do for preparedness over the weekend? Well, the biggest thing I did was I planted flowers with my wife and my kids. We played in the flower bed. We did something cosmetic to the house because we want to establish a normal that we like to live. Rather than sitting in the house, scrolling, playing TikTok on this Babylonian rectangle of death, we gave ourselves something to do. We want to be able to enjoy going and sitting outside and enjoying the yard and the flowers and stuff. That's preparedness. That's part of it. Establish your normal. Don't forget that. And stop living in fear, because just because you're a prepper doesn't mean you have to be afraid of everything, right? We prep so that we can live. We don't live for the sole purpose of prepping. If you're all freaked out about it every time you read the news, every time you watch the news or go over any kind of media, well, check this out. I want you to do an experiment for me. Stop watching the news for 2 weeks. Nothing bad will happen because of that. Your world won't really change. So obviously we need to kind of be aware of what's going on in the world around us, but don't be living in fear, right? Enjoy your life. Enjoy all of your life and use preparedness to build a life that you really, really love I can't talk. Use preparedness to build a life that you love living. Let's move on. Mistake number 3, gear. You probably don't need any more gear. You've probably got plenty of gear. Give your checkbook a rest. It's tired. The person who sees your account at the bank is getting worried about you. Stop buying useless gear. You bought 47 flashlights last week. You don't need another one this week. Now, there are things that we have to spend money on. I think everybody needs a good fighting rifle. Everybody needs a good fighting pistol. We got to have some sort of a bag. There's things we got to spend money on. Putting a whole bunch of food up costs money. I'm not telling you not to spend money, but let's make sure that we're spending our money correctly and that it's gear that we actually need, because you probably don't need that pocket grappling hook. You probably don't need another survival knife. So keep that in mind. And the bag that you have is probably good enough. Chances are, if you had to bug out with a trash bag full of your stuff, it'd probably work out just fine. So that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, is getting caught in the gear trap. Mistake number 4, energy. All kinds of energy. That's what we're storing. Food is energy. We need backup power, backup heat. We want fuel to go in the gas tank of the truck. Within the past few years, there's been several times whenever the gas pumps weren't working, and because of, power outages, or maybe there was a shortage, even if it's just a localized thing, been quite a few times where you couldn't necessarily drive down and go fill up your truck. So that's something to consider. Fuel. And here's the thing. The fuel that you use for your car also works in the generator, which, you probably need to buy a generator. It works for that stuff too. You can use it in both. Backup power for, my phone's in a tripod. I'm talking to it right now. But everything that we do runs off of these little pocket handheld rectangle computers that we call phones. It's how we communicate with each other. It's how we keep up with what's going on in the world. And it's how we stop from being overly bored. So have a way to charge that. Food is energy. We already spoke on that. Water. If you talk about food, you have to talk about water. Water's interesting because it takes way more of it than what most people think. 1 gallon of water per person per day. Throw that out the window. That's ridiculous. If you're stuck in the wilderness and sitting there, not moving, sitting in the shade, and it's not too hot where you're sweating everything out, 1 gallon of water per person per day is what you need to not like finish the dying process. Realistically, you're going to need about 5 gallons per person per day. All that freeze-dried food that you bought, cleaning up, sanitation, fingers, flies, feces. You don't want to get sick and die of dysentery. At the end of the world, I would probably prefer to die of something way cooler than the disease I got from the ugly stuff under my fingernails. So yeah, you need water. Sleep. This is the most important one of this category. How many people out there, raise your hand because I've done it, I'm the master of mistakes, did not plan for adequate sleep? You have all this whiz-bang cool stuff in your go bag, your bug-out bag, your inch bag, your evacuation bag, whatever bag you chose to put together for whenever you decided you needed to become a voluntary refugee. How much time did you spend thinking about quality sleep? On the worst day of your life, I'm willing to bet that you'll probably want some good sleep. Be able to make your decisions, quality decisions. You won't be, bickering with the kids and the wife and just the other guy who didn't even know you. He was just walking by and you were tired, so you just lashed out at him. Start accounting for sleep. Sleep is energy. All right, number 5. And before you click away from this one, hear me out. I'm really going to ask that you at least hear me out on it because it's important. People always click away when I say the bad word, money. Yeah, money's important. But the money won't matter when SHTF and... Shut up, dude. You're making my brain hurt. You're making a lot of people's brain hurt. And if you come at me with that, you've lost credibility from the rest of the conversation, right? Money does work. It works today. It's nice to have enough money to enjoy your life today. So pay a few things off. Open up some extra income. Money allows you to be agile in what you do. Whenever you open up Facebook and on Marketplace, there's the guy selling the $10,000 four-wheeler for $3,500 because he didn't have any money. You're able to pick that up and just slam down $100 bills for it, right? So it allows you to take advantage of those opportunities. Whenever all those people who didn't have any money spent their whole tax return on a freaking AR-15 and then they ran out of money again, so they had to sell it, what that normally happens toward the end of May. Well, then you can come in and you can buy all that stuff that's been shot 6 times and it's basically brand new and you get to buy it for a couple $100. It allows you to be agile and do things that people without money can't. Are you going to buy 25 acres with no money? No, you're not going to. It's just not going to happen. And with money, I do think it's important to understand that it doesn't just mean piles of cash. Piles of cash are wonderful. I love piles of cash. I'll take all the piles of cash I can get. But there is merit to the fact that people that have more money than they know what to do with really don't have any cash. They're buying investments and assets. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to know something about that, somebody in the comments can answer your question or, ask me and I'll get into it if you want. But that gold and silver, yeah, it's cool. I think most people think way too much of it. It's a good thing, yes, but maybe not the best. Bitcoin, I'm not going to get really into Bitcoin right now, But Bitcoin, I'm going to say, is probably, like, if you had to choose either this or that, like you can't have both, Bitcoin would probably be a better spot to park your money than precious metals. And no, they're not going to turn off the cash. They're not going to turn off the dollar. They're not going to turn off the Bitcoin, because how are they going to tax you? They're going to keep money going because they have to have some way to take it from you. So yeah, I guess that wraps us up for today. I'll post a couple links up here for some of the videos that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. But anyway, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and I guess y'all stay safe. I'll talk at y'all later.